Welcome to our comprehensive guide on the discharge of contracts under the Indian Contract Act, 1872. In this video, we'll explore what it means for a contract to be discharged, the various modes by which discharge can occur, and the legal implications for all parties involved. Understanding discharge is crucial for anyone dealing with contracts, as it marks the end of contractual obligations and rights. Whether you're a student, professional, or simply curious about contract law, this video will provide clarity and practical examples. Let's begin by defining discharge and its significance in contract law. Discharge of a contract refers to the termination of the contractual relationship between parties. This happens when obligations are fulfilled, or when certain events, behaviors, or legal procedures release parties from their duties. Once discharged, the contract ceases to exist and no further claims can be made. The Indian Contract Act, 1872, outlines several ways a contract can be discharged, ensuring fairness and clarity in legal dealing. Let's look at the primary modes of discharge recognized by law. There are 5 main modes of discharge: by performance, by frustration or impossibility, by agreement, by assignment, and by breach. Each mode has its own legal framework and consequences. Understanding these modes helps parties navigate their rights and responsibilities and avoid unnecessary disputes. We'll now delve into each mode, starting with discharge by performance, which is the most straightforward and common method. Discharge by performance occurs when all parties fulfill their contractual obligations within the stipulated time and manner. This is the ideal outcome, as it ensures both parties receive what was agreed upon. However, if only one party performs, that party is discharged while the other remains liable. The discharged party may take legal action against the non-performing party. The general rule is that each party must perform exactly as promised. Let's explore the nuances of performance in contracts. Contingent contracts, covered under sections 31-36, are agreements dependent on the occurrence of a specific event. If the event happens, the contract is performed and discharged. If not, the contract may become void. These contracts are unique because their performance hinges on external factors, making them less predictable. Understanding contingent contracts is essential for managing risk in contractual relationships. General contracts performance means doing what is required by the contract. When parties fulfill their duties within the agreed timeframe and manner, the contract is discharged. If one party completes their obligations, they are released, but the other party remains bound. The discharged party can seek remedies for breach if the other fails to perform. The principle is clear: exact performance is expected unless otherwise agreed. Performance can be actual or attempted. Actual performance occurs when obligations are fulfilled exactly as intended. Attempted performance or tender happens when the promisor offers to perform but the promisee refuses to accept. In such cases, the promisor is not liable for non-performance and retains their rights. For a tender to be valid, it must be unconditional, made at the proper time and place, to the correct person, and cover all obligation. If delivering goods, the promisee must have a reasonable opportunity to inspect them. If a party refuses or is unable to perform their promise entirely, the promisee may terminate the contract unless they agree to continue. For example, if a singer misses a scheduled performance, the manager can end the contract. However, if the manager allows the singer to perform again, the contract continues, but compensation for missed performances may be claimed. This ensures fairness and flexibility in contractual relationships. If a promisee accepts performance from a third party, they cannot later enforce the contract against the original promisor. This rule prevents double recovery and ensures that once obligations are met, the contract is discharged. Accepting third-party performance is common in business, but parties must be clear about their rights and responsibilities. Joint promises involve multiple promisors or promisees. Under Section 42, all joint promisors must fulfill the promise during their joint lives. If one dies, their representatives join the survivors in fulfilling the promise. Section 43 allows the promisee to compel any one or more joint promisors to perform the entire promise. If one promisor defaults, the others share the deficiency equally. Section 44 and 45 address release and devolution of rights among joint parties. Sections 46-50 outline rules for time and place of performance. Parties decide these details, but the law provides guidance when not specified. If no time is stated, performance must occur within a reasonable timeframe. If time is specified, performance must happen on that day during business hours at the agreed place. If the promisee must apply for performance, they must do so at the proper place and time. If no place is specified, the promisor must ask the promisee to fix a reasonable location. Sometimes, the promisee prescribes the manner and time for performance. In such cases, the promisor must follow these instructions. If the promisor performs as prescribed, they are discharged from liability. This rule ensures flexibility and allows parties to tailor performance to their needs, provided both agree. Time is sometimes the essence of a contract, meaning performance must occur within the specified period. This is especially true in mercantile contracts, where timely delivery is crucial due to fluctuating prices. If time is the essence and a party fails to perform, the contract becomes voidable at the other party's option. If time is not the essence, the aggrieved party can claim damages but cannot rescind the contract. This distinction protects parties from unfair losses. Reciprocal promises are mutual promises that form consideration for each other. Each party must perform their promise and accept the other's performance. The order of performance may be fixed by the contract or determined by the nature of the transaction. If one party prevents the other from performing, the contract becomes voidable and compensation may be claimed for losses. Discharge by impossibility or frustration occurs when performance becomes impossible due to unforeseen events. Section 56 declares agreements to do impossible acts as void. If an act becomes impossible after contract formation, the contract is void. The impossibility must be beyond the promisor's control and not due to their negligence. This doctrine protects parties from unfair obligations when circumstances change drastically. Doctrine of frustration is rooted in common law. It applies when unforeseen events make performance impossible or unlawful. Courts recognize that maintaining the original contract under intolerable circumstances is unjust. Frustration operates automatically, voiding the contract to the extent affected. Restoration of benefits may occur under Section 65, ensuring fairness between parties. Several grounds can lead to frustration: destruction of subject matter, change of circumstances, non-occurrence of contemplated events, death or incapacity, government intervention, and war. Each ground has specific legal consequences. For example, if a music hall is destroyed, the contract to rent it is frustrated. If a performer becomes ill, their contract is void. Legislative changes or war can also render contracts impossible. When the actual subject matter of a contract ceases to exist, the contract is frustrated. For instance, if a music hall burns down before a scheduled event, the contract to rent it is void. Similarly, if crops are destroyed by disease, the contract to sell them is discharged. This principle ensures parties are not held liable for events beyond their control. Contracts may be frustrated if circumstances change so drastically that performance is impossible. If a contract requires a specific individual's skill and they become incapacitated, the contract is void. However, if the identity of the performer is not crucial, failure to perform may be considered a breach rather than frustration. This distinction is important in service contracts. Sometimes, the value of performance is destroyed by the non-occurrence of an event contemplated by both parties. For example, if a contract is made to rent an apartment for a coronation parade, but the parade is cancelled, the contract is frustrated. This protects parties from losses when the purpose of the contract cannot be fulfilled. If a contract depends on the existence or skill of a particular person, their death or incapacity excuses performance. For example, if a pianist is too ill to perform, the contract is void. This rule ensures fairness and recognizes the personal nature of certain agreements. Legislative or administrative actions can frustrate contracts. If a government orders work to cease, as during wartime, the contract is discharged. Any change in law that makes performance impossible also leads to frustration. This principle protects parties from liabilities arising from legal changes. War or warlike conditions can frustrate contracts. For example, if a shipping route is closed due to war, the contract may be void if no alternative exists. However, if performance is still possible by another route, frustration does not apply. The courts carefully assess whether war truly makes performance impossible. Frustration must not be self-induced. If a party causes the impossibility, frustration does not apply. Frustration operates automatically, voiding the contract to the extent affected. Rights are adjusted and benefits may be restored under Section 65. For example, if a singer performs for 7 nights before the contract is cancelled, payment is due for those performances. Assignment involves transferring rights and liabilities to a third party. Contracts of a personal nature cannot be assigned. Assignment can occur by act of parties or by operation of law. For non-personal contracts, assignment is possible but must be in writing and notified to the debtor. Upon death or insolvency, rights and obligations pass to heirs or receivers. When parties themselves assign a contract, certain rules apply. Liabilities cannot be assigned without consent. Rights and benefits can be assigned if the contract is not personal. Actionable claims, such as debts, can always be assigned in writing with notice to the debtor. The assignee takes the assignment subject to all equities between original parties. Contracts not of a personal nature may be assigned by operation of law. This occurs in cases of death or insolvency. Upon death, rights and obligations pass to legal representatives. In insolvency, they pass to the official receiver or assignee. This ensures continuity and fairness in contractual relationships. Contracts can be discharged by mutual agreement. If parties agree to substitute a new contract, rescind, or alter the original, it need not be performed. Section 62 allows discharge by agreement, providing flexibility and adaptability. Let's explore the methods of discharge by agreement. Novation is the substitution of a new contract for the existing one. This may involve the same or different parties. All parties must agree to novation, and the consideration is the discharge of the original contract. Novation cannot occur after a breach. It's a powerful tool for restructuring contractual relationships. Rescission means cancellation of the contract by mutual agreement. No new contract is made and the original contract is simply cancelled. Rescission can occur before performance is due or by implied agreement if both parties neglect performance for a long time. This method is distinct from novation, which involves a new contract. Alteration involves changing one or more terms of a contract with consent from all parties. The original contract is terminated, but the parties remain the same. Material changes must be intentional and relate to significant aspects of the contract. Alteration provides flexibility while maintaining the original parties. Remission is the acceptance of a lesser sum or fulfillment than originally contracted. Section 63 allows the promisee to remit, extend time, or accept other satisfaction. For example, accepting Rs. 3,000 instead of Rs. 5,000 discharges the debt. Remission offers flexibility and can help resolve disputes amicably. Waiver is the intentional relinquishment of a right under the contract. When a party waives their rights, the other party is released from obligation. For example, if a party forbids performance, the promisor is no longer bound. Waiver can be explicit or implied and must be clear to avoid misunderstandings. Accord and satisfaction is a legal contract where parties agree to discharge a claim for an amount different from the original. This principle is used to settle disputes before court action. Accepting other satisfaction instead of actual performance results in discharge. It's a practical tool for resolving legal claims. Breach occurs when a party fails to perform any term of the contract without legal excuse. This may include incomplete work, late payment, or delivery of inferior goods. Breach is a common cause for legal action, including suits for damages or specific performance. The contract must be valid and the plaintiff must prove breach and their own compliance. There are two main types of breach: anticipatory and actual. Anticipatory breach occurs before the due date, while actual breach happens on or after the due date. Both types entitle the innocent party to seek remedies, including damages. Understanding the distinction helps parties respond appropriately to breaches. Anticipatory breach occurs when a party announces their intention not to fulfill obligations before the due date. This can be express or implied. The innocent party may treat it as an actual breach and seek damages immediately or wait for the due date. However, waiting carries risks if the contract becomes impossible before performance. Cases like Hochster v. de la Tour and Frost v. Knight illustrate anticipatory breach. In Hochster, the promisor renounced the contract before performance was due, allowing the promisee to sue immediately. In Frost, the defendant broke a promise before the contingency occurred, and the plaintiff was awarded damages. These cases clarify the legal rights of parties facing anticipatory breach. Upon anticipatory breach, the innocent party is excused from further performance and may seek damages. They can treat the breach as actual and act immediately or wait for performance. If they wait and the contract becomes impossible, remedies may be lost. The date of damages assessment is the date of repudiation. The party repudiating may still perform if the contract is affirmed. Not every minor irregularity amounts to repudiation. The breach must go to the whole contract. For example, delivering one substandard installment does not justify ending the contract unless refusal is total. Courts assess the impact of breach on the contract as a whole before allowing termination. Actual breach occurs when a party fails to perform on the due date or performs incompletely. This may be express or implied. Actual breach is common in installment contracts such as sale or delivery of goods. The innocent party can seek remedies including damages or specific performance. Both types of breach disrupt contractual relationships and can lead to legal action. Actual breach happens at the time of performance, while anticipatory breach occurs before. Remedies are available in both cases, including damages. Understanding the difference helps parties protect their interests and respond effectively. When breach occurs, the innocent party can maintain an action for damages. Courts assess the validity of the contract, proof of breach, and compliance by the plaintiff. Remedies may include compensation, specific performance, or rescission. Legal action ensures parties are protected and compensated for losses. Discharge of contracts is a fundamental concept in contract law. It marks the end of obligations and rights, ensuring fairness and clarity. Understanding the modes of discharge, legal principles, and remedies helps parties navigate contracts confidently. Whether by performance, frustration, agreement, assignment, or breach, discharge protects interests and resolves disputes. Conclusion: knowing how contracts are discharged empowers parties to manage their legal relationships effectively. The Indian Contract Act, 1872, provides a robust framework for discharge, addressing various scenarios and ensuring justice. By understanding performance, frustration, agreement, assignment, and breach, you can safeguard your interests and make informed decisions. Thank you for watching this guide on discharge of contract.